Is anyone here for the first time? Any of you? Okay, nice. Thank you for coming. This place is a very sacred place. It's a spiritual place. It's a place where people learn to raise their consciousness to a much higher frequency, to understand their eternal relationship with Krishna, with God, the universe, to understand your actual spiritual essence, to understand how to respect all life, all living entities. So actually today is Purnima. Does anyone know what Purnima means? Full moon day. Yeah, tonight the moon will be full. Actually, the moon is full for 2 nights. It's a double Purnima. You'll see tonight full, and then on Monday night still be full at the beginning of the month. So it's considered a very auspicious time. So this is called Purnima. Actually, we have a kids' room in the back. You can, if the kids are too noisy, you can take them there, because then there's things to play with, and if they're more comfortable. So Purnima, this particular day, it's the beginning of Kartik Mas. So in India, this is the most holy month of the year. It is the most sacred month. So it begins today. So you're very fortunate that you came here today, because it's an extra auspicious day. It means today you'll get special blessings for you and your family. Many generations back and forward you will get. So it is considered to be very powerful day, Purnima. And it is the beginning of the Kartik Mas, which means for 1 month until the next Purnima, which is in a month from now, then we will fully absorb ourselves in spiritual activities, sadhana. What does this word sadhana mean? Sadhana.
Like fixed spiritual practice?
Very good, yeah. It's like a spiritual practice, a sadhana. Sadhana means a daily practice. It's like anything. If you want to become good at something, you have to do it every day. And you have to practice it religiously, they say. So today, we begin, every day we do spiritual activity, but today we increase it for 1 month. Because by this sadhana or this practice, you purify your consciousness. Hands up if you need to purify your consciousness. Yeah, good. You need to purify your consciousness. Because at the moment our consciousness has become a little impure. Originally, all of us were spiritual entities. All of us were pure. Pavitra. Everyone was pure. But we left the spiritual domain and we came here to this material world. And due to contamination from association either makes you more pure or less pure. You have to choose who you associate with very carefully. We recommend sadhu sangha. It is said in the ancient teachings, sadhu sangha, sava shastri koi, lava matra, sadhu sange, sava siddhi hoy. That means that sadhu means a spiritual person. Who is a spiritual person? A sadhu. Sadhu means a spiritual person, someone who is spiritually focused. Spiritually focused. Actually, literally, if we take the word sadhu, it means one who cuts. Just like if you go to a surgeon, a doctor, then they may take the knife and they will cut, right, to remove the negative things. Right? So a sadhu is a spiritual person who may, by his words, he may say things to cut away your material attachments and your material ego. So this is a sadhu, it means one who cuts. So sadhu means a saintly person, a spiritual person. And he will speak to you in such a way to remove your material covering. So this is how we remove our material contamination. Because all of us are contaminated. We came here, and if you associate with materialistic people, you will become materialistic. And if you associate with spiritual people, you will also become spiritually enlightened. So you have to make your choice. Who do you want to associate with? Who is your guru? Who will give you the instruction? Who do you listen to? Who will elevate your consciousness? Now I know that most of you watch television. Hands up if you watch television every day or regularly. Okay. So this means you are listening to the materialistic guru. Because what do they tell you on television? Do this, do that, go here, go that, be this, be this. Right? And then you are following that. And then you are on the internet. Hands up if you're on the internet every day. Yeah, most of you. Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, TikTok, Snapchat.
TikTok.
You choose it, it's there. Right? It affects your consciousness. Right? You become more materialistic by the association you keep. So these days, just on your phone, right, you can be anywhere in the world right now. Right? Just get on, you can type in anything, it's all there. And your association. Like this morning, I was having my breakfast. I got up early, I did my sadhana, my chanting and everything. When I was having breakfast, I typed in a lecture by a friend of mine. He's on the other side of the world right now. I think he's in India now. Amarendra Prabhu. And then I listened. And he was giving a lecture. So I was listening to him speak about spiritual topics. And while I was having my breakfast, I was elevating my consciousness through the Sangha, or the association that I choose to keep. Or I could watch some total garbage or total rubbish, which will bring my consciousness down to the materialistic platform. So we have to choose our association very carefully, because it will either uplift us or bring us down. So we need to purify our consciousness. That is called sadhana. That means spiritual practice. It's a choice all of us have to make. Do you want to lift your consciousness up, or you want to bring it down? So for 1 month, we focus more fully on our spiritual practices. It begins today. Now that's what we are doing. So then in about 10 days, I will go to India. Because in India, there are very sacred, holy places. They are called dham. Dham means sacred place, spiritual place. And if you go to those places, you practice your spiritual practices there, you get even more benefit. Because the potency of the place. If you've been to a very spiritual place, you will feel that. People say that when they come here to Hare Krishna Valley. They feel like it is uplifting them. There's strong spiritual energy there. So when you go to these places in India, where Krishna appeared, Vrindavan, and Mayapur and Puri, you'll feel even more spiritual potency. When are you going?
31st.
31st. You going straight to Vrindavan? Yeah. We'll see you there. Yeah, in Vrindavan. So we go there and we practice our spiritual practice there, and we get even more benefit. That is the potency of those places. So you have to choose. Which association do you want? Do you want the association of the materialistic thing? Or do you want the association of the spiritual thing? Because that will determine your consciousness. Your consciousness will become more materialistic by the association you keep. Or it will become more elevated by the association you keep. This is the choice. So today is a special day. So it is Purnima. And it said if you practice all these spiritual practices on a day like today, you will get so much more benefit. It actually says thousands of times. Just like we're chanting. The chanting, which we're doing, is said to be the Yuga Dharma. This Yuga, what does the word mean? Yuga.
Age?
Age, time, place. It's an age, the Yuga. The age we're in now, what is it called? Kali Yuga. You've heard of Kali Yuga? Yeah. That's the time we're in now. How long does it last for?
Too old.
432,000 years. Yeah. And when did it begin?
5,000 years ago.
5,000 years ago. So we're only just in the beginning. And it gets much, much worse. You think the world is crazy now? Nothing like it will become. It gets much, much more materialistic. The word Kali means dark. It's a very dark time for humanity. Because they forget their spiritual connection. They become disconnected. and therefore becomes very materialistic. So it says in the ancient teachings, Kale doshini he rajan. This particular age is full of dosha. Dosha means faults, defects. So many problems in this age. Asti heko mahanguna. Mahaguna. There is one very great quality though. Even though this world is crazy, one thing is very powerful and very good. Kirtana deva krishnasya. If you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, just like we were chanting before, Hare Krishna mantra. Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. Mukta Sangha means you will be liberated out of this world. All of the problems in this world, the problems will evaporate. Right? Param Vrajet. And you will go to the supreme abode of God Himself, Krishna Himself. That's how powerful the chanting is. Right? Such a powerful, powerful process. So that's why on this day, when you did the chanting, those of you who joined in with us, you got so much benefit of the chanting. Thousands of times more benefit on this holy day of Purnima, first day of Kartika. So we recommend the whole world chant. Kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. It says in the ancient teachings, Kirtaniya sada hari. Or Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, many of you would have heard of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Satato kirtayanto mam. Satato means always do the chanting. So every day we do the chanting. That's part of our sadhana every day. This morning I got up early, about 5 o'clock, and then we chanted for about an hour and a half on the beads, Hare Krishna mantra, meditating. Every day we do this. And this month we will do it more. And then I will go on a retreat in 1 month from now when I go to India, and we will get together and we will chant for 8 hours non-stop to purify our consciousness. It's a great jagya, purification. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything related to a spiritual life? Or even material life, we can give some.
So
Yes, sir.
Is it possible for a person who wants to do some living purpose, life service or something, is that part of materiality, or like you have to work, right? You can't.
Yeah, you have to work.
Yeah.
So what is the question?
So is that?
Should you leave your job? Is that the question?
Is that?
What is your question, or what's the actual?
So actually, is that part of spirituality or materiality?
Is your job part of spirituality?
Hmm?
Is your job part of spirituality? Yeah, it's a good question. If you connect it to Krishna, if you connect it to God, yeah, then it becomes part of spirituality. Okay. So my job is directly connected to Krishna. What is my job? It is to run this place. What is this place? It is Krishna's farm. Everyone who comes here learns about Krishna. They learn about God. They become spiritually realized. So my job is directly connected to Krishna. Not everyone can have a job like that. So if you have a job in the outside world, somehow you try to connect it to Krishna. You can open a Hare Krishna restaurant. It's a good idea. Or you can start some sort of Hare Krishna business. There's many business you can do. Like in England, there's a group of Hare Krishnas. They run a cheesecake business. So they make cheesecakes, they offer it to Krishna, it becomes prasad, and then they sell it. They have a warehouse and they make lots of cheesecake. They make good money. Employs a number of people. So many things we can do like that. But if you're in the secular world, if you're in the outside world and you're just working like what we call a normal job, then how do you make that spiritualized? Okay, then you have to become more creative. There's different ways of doing it. So many of my friends in Melbourne, they do this. They have jobs in the outside world. So I ask them, what do you do? So they do different things. One friend of mine, he's a jeweler in Brighton, in jewelry business. So then when people come in, he has spiritual books, or the Hare Krishna books on the counter. And if they buy some jewelry, he said, and if you'd like, you can also purchase one of these books. They're not so expensive. Many people, they say, yeah, okay, what is that one about? Reincarnation or something. They take that. So different ways you can do it, just by using your... And everyone who comes to look at his jewelry, he gives them a cookie, like some spiritual food which has been offered to Krishna. So there's different ways that we can do these things. You just have to use your... And in his jewelry shop, when you go in, on the speaker is chanting like Hare Krishna. It's like, you know. So in this way, he's purifying. Another friend of mine, he works in... he's an accountant in the office, and he works night shift. But I know some who work day shift to do a similar thing. And then what he does is he gets paid to work for 9 hours, like most people do, I know. But especially night shift, there's not so many people around, so he works 7 hours, and 2 hours when the people aren't around, he reads Bhagavad Gita and these books. And the company pays him, and he becomes spiritual. And yeah, he gets all the work done. But then another friend of mine I know, he was a salesman. He was on the road, and he had his quota every day. He had to sell $2,000 every day of whatever he was selling for the company. So sometimes he'd sell $2,000 by 11 o'clock in the afternoon. In the morning. So he'd just go to some park, get the Bhagavad Gita and everything, just read and do chanting and like that. And then come home at the end of the day to the office, say, yeah, I did 2,000 like that. And so you have to become creative like that. Different ways. Or if you can't do all these things, then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you give some phal. Phal means fruit. At the end of the week, when you finish work, your boss gives you fruit. These days they give you money. These days you just get numbers in your bank account. Boom, it just appears. That's what happens every Friday. I get paid, just numbers appear. Right? So that's my fruit. So then, if you're in the outside world, if you can't dedicate, your time and energy and so forth in your bucket, then you give some of the fruit to Krishna. You give some of, like the money you earn, you give it to Krishna. Like that. So there's different ways that you can do. You can make it connected to Krishna. You just have to understand. The most important thing is that you have a guru. Because the guru will instruct you, or he will explain to you how you can connect what you're giving to Krishna. So under guidance, if you have someone who can guide you, they can tell you, okay, you can do like this, you can connect it to Krishna. So there are many ways. Many people, they work in the outside world, but they connect what they do to Krishna. Even I have one friend, he's actually a lawyer. He actually works in the city. And because he runs his own law practice, when he has sometime at lunchtime, or even early in the day, sometimes he goes to our restaurant, Gopal's in the city, and sometimes he does some work there, he helps out there. Like that. So there's different ways. People are asking how you can connect your work to Krishna. So there's different ways you can do it. So whatever you can do, there's different ways you can do it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You like to add anything?
No, thanks very much. Yeah.
That's okay.
Also, like if you don't have time, even any time, you can just chant. Like if you are so busy, and when inside, chanting is also connecting.
Do some chanting inside, yeah. If you're at work, you may have to be a little bit careful. Because you're at work, you're on the reception, and you're doing Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then I don't know what they will say at your work. So just be a little bit sensitive to your colleagues. That's all. I had another friend, and he worked in what was he? He was IT. So he worked in the company. There's about 40 people on his floor. So during the day, everyone's walking around the different offices and everything. And then he would, at work, whenever someone sees him, like whenever someone sees someone, they say, hello, or like that. Just go, those people are just around, just ask them. then when he was walking around the office, then everyone says, oh, hello, or hi, or good morning, like that. So in his work, whenever someone saw him, they would have to say Hare Krishna. Otherwise he would not respond. It's like he trained the office. So the whole office was chanting Hare Krishna. Whenever they saw it, they said, oh, Hare Krishna, he'd say Hare Krishna. So the whole office, like, so different ways you can do it. You just have to find different ways. Good question. Any other questions anyone has?
We're talking about the association, like if you associate too much with materialistic things or materialistic people, you get influenced. But anyway, like we are exposed all the time to many things, like because of work or because of other things, and like how to deal with that. Like what's the best way to try to? You can. Oh, you wanted to ask that? Okay.
So what's the question?
Like how to deal in a healthy way, like not trying to be also like discriminating and isolating yourself too much from, because you are involved in society in different groups and different things, like not all the people that you associate with is spiritual, so how to just make sure you keep it healthy and...
Yeah, it's a good question, because according to the association that we receive, then that's what we become. So sometimes you're in a situation where you have to work in a workplace where many of the people may be materialistic in their consciousness. And you yourself, you're not a materialist, you're a spiritualist, but still you have to work in that place with them. So there has to be like a balance which is kept, because you cannot be antisocial, you can't just not speak to anyone or like that. But at the same time, just like some of my friends, they're in their office. After office, they like to have everyone goes out and has a drink. So they always invite, oh, come and have a drink after work party, and we'll have a drink like that. But some of my friends, because they're spiritual by now, they don't feel comfortable with that. So at this, at one point, you don't compromise your principles. It's alright to say, I'm sorry, I don't feel. I want to be, in a bar or that kind of place. I don't feel comfortable there. But at the same time, when you're at work, you have to be social, make everything comfortable for everyone. Like that. We can't isolate ourselves too much. So yeah, it's a difficult thing, because it's like in this world, you don't want to go too far, and people don't understand. So we have to be respectful, and we just have to explain to people, this is the way that we see things, this is the way we do things. And a lot more people are becoming open-minded now, so it is becoming easier in a lot of places. Because people understand that people have different ways they look at the world and things like that. So we don't all have to just follow the mainstream. We work hard and then we just go to the bar, and we don't all have to do the same thing. So, you want to add something?
No, I mean it's good to know that, because in some point someone also gave us association, so it's the way to see like how much can we also try to give, just to the point that people are willing to accept it and listen something different.
And then, there's people I meet every day who are not, I wouldn't say they're spiritual practitioners, but, they've got so many things that you can learn from them. We can share different things. So it's just you have to find the balance, the fine line. So you don't get absorbed in materialistic consciousness, but at the same time we can share so many things on a daily basis. It's like walking on a tightrope. It's just like it's a fine line. It takes practice. Any other questions?
What about dealing with family? If you have family in the
Well, what is the question?
Any tips for how to deal with that?
Depends what your family's like. Can you be a little bit more? What are you asking, like in particular?
Just how do you deal with if your family has a materialistic one, and
they're materialistic and you're more spiritual.
Yeah. And you
And
still,
they're your family, so you still have to
have a little, attachment to them.
have attachment, and then you also have family responsibilities and obligations, and also you love them and you want to spend time with them. How do you find? So yeah, that's also challenging. The best thing to do is to go to the Himalayas, find a cave, and probably don't come back for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years. Good.
Okay, cool. 7 years. Write that down.
See how you go.
I'm back in 7 years.
Yeah,
Oh God.
that's one way of dealing with it. And we have to deal with it according to the family members. And once again, it's a fine line. It's like a juggling act, because we have to be, if they're materialistic and you're on a spiritual path, there has to be interaction, because there's a responsibility there. But at the same time, only to the extent that it doesn't bring you down too much in terms of your spiritual consciousness. So you have to have it on a level where you can interact, but they have to be respectful of your way of life as well, so that you can still elevate yourself, but at the same time, it's satisfying to both parties. So it's not very easy to do, because sometimes they see things very differently. So one example I have in my life, my grandmother who passed away, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago or so. So she was very loving, very friendly, and I would go and see her, and but she didn't understand everything that I did and everything I do. So I told her I'm vegetarian. For her that was she didn't fully maybe understand that, because she just grew up differently. So one time I went to her house and then she cooked for me, and I said, I can only eat vegetable, I can't eat meat or anything. So she made a soup, a big pot of soup was sitting there. And then I said, what's in the soup? She said, just vegetables. And I said, anything else? He said, no, just vegetables. I said, you sure? He said, no, just vegetable soup. I said, definitely? And she said, there's just one shank. It's like a leg of lamb. So, it's a fine line. Because, I like to see her, I like to spend time with her, but then I can't eat all the things that, she may cook. But then, over time, many of the members in my family, now that they understand they understand this is not just a phase I'm going through. I've been doing this for over half my life now. So now, because they respect it, if I go there, they'll only cook vegetarian food, and they'll be more careful, more conscientious. So you can't compromise your principles. They're the same.
Your family became more accepting over the years.
Yeah, generally when they see that, as I said, it's not just a phase you're going through, but it's actually something you're doing. And then over time, quite often what happens, they see because of your spiritual practices, you're probably the most balanced person they know. And they respect that. They may not understand or believe everything that you understand and believe, but they see just because you're stable, which is quite it's a very positive thing in this modern world, because a lot of people are unstable. So when they see you're very stable, they have respect for that. And because they have respect for that, generally over time, they tend to be more accepting and more respectful. And then sometimes you see they themselves become practitioners over time. Even the most surprising people, you think, they wouldn't be interested, but then over time they come out with little gems. Just like my grandma, she was, when I first became a Hare Krishna, it was very foreign for her. She was thinking, this is really very strange and everything. And then not long before she left, I was speaking to her one day, and she said to me, she goes, that's my karma. I looked at her and I was like, really? That's it's quite, she's evolved a lot over time. And it's also the whole world. Many years ago, vegetarianism, reincarnation, karma, they weren't part of mainstream Western society. Now they are. America's a Judeo-Christian country. But 60% of America believe in reincarnation. And that's not even part of their philosophy or religion. It's not supposed to be. It actually is, but you know. But so it's interesting. The world is changing, and people are accepting a lot more things now. So if you just, it's a test. You know, as I told you, my wife was speaking about this the other day. It's a test. All of us have to face the test. You know, you don't compromise your principles, and if you don't compromise, over time, people will respect that, and they may even follow it themselves. So okay. Would you like to add anything? Good question. Any other questions? Yes, madam.
What's your vision on mental health illness, like from the spiritual point of view? How would you explain that?
How would we explain mental health?
Illness.
When someone has mental illness?
Yeah, like.
Yeah. There's different reasons why people become mentally ill. Different reasons. The main reason is because of the lifestyle in the modern world. The modern world, the way life is in the modern world, it's causing people to become mentally ill. Because it's not natural. So there's different elements. Right? One is the families are breaking down. So generally, if you go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, usually the first thing, and if you go to Freud's like the father of the whole thing. You know, it's all about your mother, your father. That's where everyone starts. Oh, what was your relationship like with the mother? What was it like with the father? Right. So when the families are very strong, and back in the old and ancient cultures, India and all the European cultures, families would live together. And that creates stability in the mind and in the heart and, you know, in the person. So because that is being taken out of society now, that's why a lot of people are not very stable, because just, you know, by the time you grow up, you've gone through so many things, even just in your family unit, it causes problems in the mind. Another factor is the food. Because people are not eating, they're eating these processed foods and things like that. Now they're beginning to research it, and scientists are telling us these foods are actually causing depression and so many problems, because, you know, they destroy the gut health. If the gut health is not well, they can affect the moods a lot. So sometimes it's the food is a big factor. So you get families are breaking down, everyone's eating the wrong food, and then there's too much stress in society, like too much pressure. If you go back thousands of years, you know, like even America, when America was founded 250 years ago, 97% of the population were farmers. So they're just working outdoors on the land, everyone works together, it's very healthy. These days, you know, less than 1% of the American population are farmers. And people have all these lifestyle and jobs and pressure, right? And then that's also affecting people's mental health. So it's many reasons why people are going through that.
I was thinking also, like, from that concept of karma and, you know, reincarnation,
Is it that a part of it?
Sort of relation.
Yeah, it is. Because some people are born in this life, and because when you're born, you take your mind and your intelligence from your previous life and your ego. So when you're born, whoever you were previously, that all goes into this life. So you're the same person, your body changes, but you're the same person. So your psychology is the same. So if you're already very stressed and anxious in the previous life, you see some people, even when they're young, you know, there's disturbance there. And as they get older, you see it coming out in so many different ways. So it is being caused, yeah, sometimes by the previous life. Sometimes people have already arrived and there's problems there. So the real question is, how do we solve the problems? Yeah. So we recommend chanting Hare Krishna as the main methodology. That's what we use. And it's very powerful to destroy problems in the mind, because it's full of bliss. The Hare Krishna lifestyle is very blissful. So when you live this lifestyle, you become very happy. And when you're happy, that counteracts the mental problems. You know, it's not like we don't have problems in our life, but, you know, we can detach ourselves from it by focusing on something more powerful. And if you have mental problems, then just have kids. Because then
What?
because I've seen people who are, struggling and everything. They have a kid and then they're just, like, so it's because it's natural like that. Because then, I remember one friend of mine, Radhi Shah, a good friend of mine. She said when she had her kid, she said, she wasn't a depressed person, but maybe some struggles were there in her life. But she said when her kid, like her heart just opened up with love. Just so much love that you can give, and that's why. If you want to be happy, you have to give love. So many different reasons, but ultimately, the ultimate way to deal with mental disease is through spirituality. Right? If you have something spiritual, then you'll become satisfied. Otherwise, you can fill all the other pieces, and still you can feel empty. But if you're connected to Krishna, to God, you'll always be happy. So, good question. Any other questions?
There's a comment in that regards, like as you said before, that we had heard about the age that we are in the moment, and it's part of the description, like the population is always going to be disturbed and unlucky or that, and we just think that we've seen it all now, because so many people are presenting some problems there. But as you said, it's just going to progress, and things are probably going to get a little bit worse, but at least as you said as well, that we have this at the same time, the holy name and chanting and increasing some other practices to help us.
Yeah. Actually, it says this age, even though it's considered to be the dark age, it's actually said to be the best age, because it's so crazy that it really makes you go deep into spiritual life, because you really need relief. So it's actually a good place, good time and place at this point. Any other points?
Christy was saying something on the way here, like how it's usually like for exploring other things before, like getting into drinking or drugs or many things, like people usually didn't feel afraid, but when we come to the time to face spirituality, like it's so resistant, like we can feel more afraid to dive into spirituality than what was dive into drugs and alcohol and that. That's kind of like something interesting to think of.
It's people.
It was that, like, you take an ecstasy pill, but you never think about it. You just take it. How you won't just drop into spirituality. Like, it's like, oh, what about if I become spiritual, or what could happen? But you never thought twice about having the pill that you would, go crazy on.
Not everyone, but
Not everyone. No. And I'm not like advocating. I should. But
oh, that's good. Don't take ecstasy. Say no to drugs. Nancy Reagan said, "Say no to drugs."
No.
Right? So follow Nancy Reagan. She's our guru. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because
what are we talking about in the country?
this age is called the Kali Yuga. So it started 5,000 years ago. And these books which we base our life on, the whole second shelf up there, the bookshelf, this is the first book. It's called the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. This is like our main book of knowledge. So this is 18,000 verses. Right? This is the first part. And actually in this 7th chapter in this, it describes when this age began 5,000 years ago, there were a group of sages, and they were looking at this age. They could see into the future. And they saw this age, and then they recorded what they saw. And it's very interesting, because it says the main thing they saw in this age, can anyone guess? What's the main quality that they saw in this age as time went through? Could anyone guess? What do you think was the main thing? If you were 5,000 years ago and you're looking at 2020 now, what was the main thing people were seeing? 5,000 years ago.
Material progress.
Material progress, yeah. Yeah. What was the main quality in society, in people? What's the main quality they were saying?
Always disturbed.
Always disturbed, yeah. That's good. It mentions earlier that was the quality they saw. People are always disturbed. It's a nice description of modern society. But this particular quality wasn't even that, it was something else. So.
Passion?
Passion, very good. Yeah, people are very passionate, just got to, like Donald Trump. You got to do it. He's just passionate, He's just like, just calm down, boy. Just like relax. Just do some chanting or something. Just relax. Yeah, it's good, but that's not the quality. But
Fear?
fear, yeah. I mean, that would be, fearful. People are very fearful. Yeah, that's very good. It wasn't that specifically, but
Evil?
which one?
Evil?
Yeah, that's there a lot. It's probably not the overriding quality at the moment, but it may become in the future. But yeah, it's definitely.
Quarrel?
Yeah, that's it.
Quarrel,
Kali
yeah.
Yuga is the age of quarrel, or
Age of quarrel, yeah, very good.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, that's one of the most prominent qualities at this point in time. People quarrel about the most ridiculous things, right? All the time. Like that. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, but there's even one quality.
Disconnection from myself.
Which is
Disconnection. Disconnection.
disconnection from the self. Yeah, very good. Because we're seeing that a lot these days. People are very disconnected. Yeah, it wasn't that either, but that's a very good. That's
Short memory.
short memory.
Yeah, short-lived.
Yeah, short-lived, short-lived.
spiritual practices, lack of spirituality.
Lack of spirituality. Yeah, that's very good as well. Materialistic. Yeah, that's all. They're all correct. Everything's correct. It's very interesting what they wrote. It struck me when I read it. Right? They said the lack of faith. Interesting. 5,000 years ago, and they look to now, people don't have faith. Right? So, okay, you look at the modern political system, right? Like in Australia, America, we vote, right? But they did a survey from the Sydney University, and the majority of the population we don't trust the politicians. We elect them, we know all the promises, they're not going to keep them. So what sort of a world have we got ourselves into? We don't even trust the leaders of society. And when it comes to get onto your point, when it comes to spirituality, like you said, you have more faith in taking a drug than spirituality, because I don't know what it's like at the moment on the radio, but I remember the last 12 months, every time I turned the radio on and you heard the news, it was about some Catholic priest case, some cardinal who was being taken because, it was like, I thought, God, is there something else going on in the world besides this? People have lost faith because you don't know if the religious leaders are actually religious or not. Just like I was at the supermarket 6 or 12 months ago, and I was lining up to buy the groceries, and there was a priest in front of me, and he was wearing, his little collar, the white and black and like that, and he looked like a very nice person. And we're just talking a little bit, and I said, what's it like at the moment for you? I said, it must be difficult because everywhere you walk, first thing I thought, as soon as I saw him, I thought, oh, is he one of the good ones? Or honestly, that's what I thought. And how crazy has the world become that that's what we think when we see a spiritual person now? First thing you see when you see a priest, you think, oh, is he a good one or is he one of the... And that people are losing faith, right? So that means, if someone is a spiritualist, you have to live up to the practices and the teachings. Like if I sit here on a Sunday and tell you, oh, you have to chant and you have to do all these things, but then I don't do it all, and what's the point? Right? No one will have faith, or you don't do it. So, yes, madam.
Also too with the rise, after the period of enlightenment, and then the growth of science, they really pushed to separate the church from the state as well. So that was a whole big movement to remove spirituality and faith from. So now we're in a society that strums up, well, we have to look at it scientifically, and it has to be through that, and if there's no proof through that, then it mustn't exist. And so You know, we've been brought up in a society that's really removed that and made it feel so if you are a religious person or a spiritual practitioner, you really have to kind of prove yourself to others because of that skepticism, or well, we'll prove it. There's no actual evidence. So you know, our society is completely structured to be like that, to put that distrust in it. That's why they did that, to separate church from state, because they felt they didn't want, you know, big religious movements to have control over people, and they wanted science and other things to come through us, and politics.
Yeah, very good point.
You know, we can't help that we're conditioned that way as well.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, historically, things have happened like that. Previously, as Atoria was explaining, science and religion were one study. They weren't two different things, right? Scientifically, the whole point of science was to prove the existence of God. That was actually the point of science previously. If you go back 1,000 years, 2,000 years, that's the way it was studied. If you go to all the ancient Greek philosophers, that's how they, you know, their understanding of the world was always leading to the higher principle. You know, that is the purpose. These days now, everything's become disconnected. So yeah, it is difficult now. You know, people have lost faith. So what is the point of our movement? Our point of our movement is to rebuild the faith. Like that. And then even that's difficult because sometimes some of our members don't act properly. Everyone says, oh, just see. You know, so it's a challenge. Like that. But we just have to stay fixed. Like that. The one person I have implicit faith in, 100% faith in, was Prabhupada, who's the founder of our movement. Right? And he's left this world now. But I've studied his life, his teachings for 30 years, deeply. You know, he's probably the most videoed, documented person in history. Like, there's hours of footage of him. And I've studied his teaching, and I'm convinced that he was an enlightened soul, a pure soul. So, you know, my faith at the end of the day, if everything else gets crazy, you know, is my stability. Very good point. Any other questions?
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
What do you make of, because Scott Morrison, for example, would say he's a person of faith.
Who is that?
Our Prime Minister.
Oh, he's the Prime Minister?
Yeah. And he is a Pentecostal Christian.
Is he?
It's a so-called prosperity theology. So they hold that if you're wealthy, it's because God has rewarded you. And if you're poor, it's because God is in some way punishing you. What do you say about that?
Do they actually say that?
Yes.
Does he actually say that?
I don't think he's come out and publicly said it, but the church he belongs to, that is a core.
That's a philosophy?
Yeah.
Spiritually, according to the Vedas, or the ancient teachings of India, there's no statement which says that it's just not true. Yeah, that's the answer is it's just not true. There's no statement in the Vedas that says if you're wealthy, you're closer to God. Because in our tradition, one who's an ascetic or who's simplified his life, you know, probably like an example would be like Gandhi. You know, Gandhi lived very simply, gave up all his possessions like that. You know, people like that, and Prabhupada actually, in his life, if, you know, like I'm taking some devotees, Shaden's coming with me to India in a few weeks, I can take you to the room that Prabhupada lived in before he came to the West and started the whole massive movement. Well, he lived very, very simply. So to be close to God, you could be a millionaire or a pauper. That's not what's significant. In your consciousness, you could be a millionaire. Like we have Alfred Ford, for example. You know, he's Henry Ford's grandson. He owns Ford. And he's a Hare Krishna. He just gave $30 million to build one of our temples in India. So, you know, he's a millionaire, but he's very Krishna conscious, God conscious. And then you can be a very poor person. You can be, so that, it doesn't mean anything. So if they're actually saying that in their church, I mean, if they actually do say that, then they're quite bewildered.
Well, it sounds very self-serving because it makes you feel good if you're rich and you can pay out on the people on welfare, for example. It seems very unfair.
Yeah, it's not true. There's no validity in it. There's no proof. There's no, I mean, I don't know where. I mean, I suppose they're based on the Bible. Jesus was a poor man, so where's the logic?
I agree with you.
No, I mean, I know you agree, but I'm just trying to follow it logically. I don't know a lot about that.
It's a perversion of the Bible.
It's a big perversion. The guy who started the whole thing, who you call the Messiah, he was a poor guy. I don't think there was any point in his life. I don't know a lot. I don't know Jesus deeply, but I don't think there's any point where he's a rich guy. So where's the logic? Oh, he was poor, but the rest of us are going to be rich from now on. Like, where's the? What part of the Bible does Jesus say? Okay, all the rich people will become my followers. I don't think there's any statements like that. I know he does say the meek inherit the earth. He doesn't say the rich inherit the earth, or the millionaires inherit the earth, or the Liberal Party inherits the earth. None of those statements are there. But he does say the meek. So yeah, it's not even logical. The main reason I became a Hare Krishna is because our philosophy is logical. Right? It's logical. Whether you accept it or not, that's your choice. I don't have a problem with that. If someone accepts it or doesn't accept it, doesn't bother me in any way, shape or form. But it is logical. And if someone argues it's illogical, then I can discuss with you and I can show the logic in it. Whether you accept the logic, that's but it's a logical philosophy. That's why I follow it. Because if it was illogical, I wouldn't follow it. How am I going to dedicate my life to something which is illogical? So how could you even dedicate your life to being this, form of churchianity? It's not even a logical thing. So it's like, but that's what people are like these days. Like you said, it's very self-serving. I want to be rich, so I'll find a religion that speaks all about that, and then it doesn't make any sense. There's something in the Bible that says it's harder for a rich man to get into the kingdom of God than to get the camel through the eye of the needle. So, So next time you meet him, just say, Scott.
Well, he doesn't conduct talks like this where you can interrogate him one-on-one, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go there even if I was. If it was on Facebook tomorrow, come and meet Scott Morrison. For a start, I wasn't even really aware that he was the Prime Minister. Who was the one before him?
Turnbull.
Turnbull. In my mind, I'm still probably thinking that it was him. I knew it was Scott, but I wasn't not overly concerned. That's why I don't follow politics carefully, because it doesn't really matter who you vote for. As far as I can see, it doesn't make a big difference. Unless you get the Greens, they'll probably make somewhat of a difference, and even they're not perfect. Richard lives just down the road here. He comes to the Sunday feast sometimes. He's a nice guy, but I don't agree with everything he says. If I had to have a choice, I'd probably choose him or the Animal Liberation Party or something. But even they're not perfect. And then we'd probably say, oh, we're perfect. But then if we got in, everyone would say, oh, these guys aren't perfect. So it's very objective, subjective. So, nice point. Any other points?
When Andrew was saying that, it's Andrew, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Good to see you. I was thinking about in the Vedic thought, karma, and that actually that idea isn't that different to something in some ways. Like there's a misconstruction of the Vedas. I'm just thinking of that, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting, but that not in terms of being closer to God, but that because when we try to understand why some people are wealthy or seem to have all the breaks and it doesn't seem fair, and then other people are really struggling and seem to be good people, good in every sense of the word, the concept of that karma has actually brought them, like as in wealth, that is due to perhaps past karma, not necessarily how they're behaving in this life. But that doesn't mean they're closer to God necessarily, like you said. So actually, that church actually seems to have taken part of the theory of karma, but
they don't have a full understanding.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a very strange way to. Nothing really surprises me that much anymore. In America, there's 5 new religions registered every week. People just come up with Scientology. Then next week it'll be another one, and it's 5 every week coming. And then in America, they do a census. You have to say which religion you are. So now on the American census, one of the choices when you write down which religion you are, one of them is Jedi. Because so many people were writing their Jedis that they had to actually make it part of the census. So people are saying, Jedi is just a film. It's like, there aren't Jedis. That's how big the movement is. But George, if you look at a lot of what the Jedi think, it's actually makes a lot of sense. If there were more Jedis, it would be better. The world would be a better place. But the world's become very, very strange. Any other points?
What about the 10,000-year golden age?
Which is on there?
Yeah. How does that? Is that conditional, or is that definitely going to happen?
No, it's happening. We're living in it, but we can see it's definitely not perfect.
No.
But if it wasn't for this spirituality and the Krishna consciousness on the planet, the world would be a lot worse than what it is right now. So it's only because that's putting a brake on it for the next 9,500 years, and then it will roll at full speed. If it was going at full speed now, it'd be a lot worse. So it's like a bit of a brake being put on. So, any other questions? Is anyone hungry? No one? Okay. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Okay. We'll just go and eat now. No, thank you for coming. Next Sunday we have our cow festival. Festival of the Cows. So you're welcome to come next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
It is today. Okay.
Yeah, Go Puja.
Go Puja.
Next Sunday. Yeah, last year we had about 500 people came. So if you want to come back next week, there'll be a lot of people here. I don't know how many. We'll see, but definitely be at least 200, maybe 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure, maybe 600. But it'll be a nice festival where we go and visit our cows. After lunch today, we'll go and visit the cows. They're in the go-show?
Not sure today.
They're on the left
They were
side.
on this left side when we came.
On the left.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe after lunch, can you move them up to the...
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll go after lunch, we can go and see the cows, if you'd like to go and see them today. If you'd like to give a donation today, then just leave it in the donation box. Help us pay for the feeding everyone. And we have a free magazine. Anyone who wants to read more about the Hare Krishna movement, there's a good magazine there which is free. That's here, you can just go and get it. So thank you all for coming. Please come again.